The wind was cold and sharp. It cut through the dry grass like a blade. A small boy sat alone on the step. He was 9 years old. His father was dead. His tribe had left him behind. They took his mother, his brothers, and his sisters. But they left him. Because he was too small. Because he was too weak. Because he was nobody. That boy had nothing. No food. But inside that small, hungry chest, something burned. Something that would one day shake the entire world. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Timeless English. I am so glad you are here today. So settle in. Get comfortable. Because today, we tell the story of the most powerful man who ever lived. A man who started with nothing. A man who ended up ruling everything. Have you ever felt like the world forgot about you? Have you ever felt completely alone? This man felt that at age 9. And what he did next changed history forever. His name was Temujin. The world would later call him Genghis Khan. And here is the most extraordinary fact about this man. He died 800 years ago. But his blood, his actual DNA, runs through the veins of 1 in every 12 men alive on Earth today. That is 40 million people, walking around right now, carrying the blood of one man. One man who started as a forgotten child on an empty plane. If you are new here, welcome. This channel helps you learn English through powerful historical stories. Every video is slow, clear, and cinematic. Please subscribe before we begin. Because this story, you do not want to miss. Year was 1171. Central Asia was a wild and dangerous place. There were no cities. No kings. No laws. There were only tribes. Tribes that fought each other constantly. Tribes that stole horses, women, and children. Tribes that survived by being stronger than everyone else. Temujin was born into one of these tribes. His father was a small chief named Yesijai. His mother was a woman named Holun. On the day Temujin was born, his father returned from battle. He had just defeated an enemy warrior named Temujin. So he named his newborn son after that warrior, a name taken from a defeated enemy. That was how Temujin entered the world. Already connected to conflict. Already connected to survival. When Temujin was 9 years old, his father made a decision. It was time to find his son a wife. In those days, boys were promised in marriage very young. So Yesijai took his son to another tribe, a tribe called the Ongjuret. There young Temujin saw a girl. Her name was Bort. She had calm eyes and a strong face. Temujin liked her immediately, and her father agreed to the marriage. Yesijai left his son with Borta's family. He rode home alone across the empty steppe, but he never arrived. On the road home, Yesijai stopped to eat with strangers. Those strangers were Tatars, old enemies of his tribe. They recognized him, and they poisoned his food. 3 days later, Yesijai was dead. Back at the camp, Temujin's tribe learned the news, and they made a decision, a cold and cruel decision. They abandoned Temujin's family. They took everything, the horses, the food, the animals. They left Holun and her children with nothing. A widow and her children, alone on the steppe, in winter. In that world, that was a death sentence. Survival, but Holun refused to die. She was not a weak woman. She went out every day with a stick. She dug roots from the frozen earth. She picked wild berries and pine nuts. She fed her children with her bare hands. And she told them something every single day. She told them, "You will survive this. You will be stronger because of this. Do not forget what they did to us." Young Temujin listened. He remembered every word. And as he grew older, he grew harder. He learned to hunt. He learned to ride. He learned to read people, who was loyal, who was not. But life was still brutal. When Temujin was around 11 years old, he did something shocking. His half-brother stole a fish from him, a single fish. Food they desperately needed. Temujin did not argue. He did not. He picked up his bow, and he shot his own half-brother dead. This was not cruelty for cruelty's sake. This was the steppe. This was survival. And it showed something about Temujin. He had a line. And when you crossed it, there were consequences. Then came the day that would define his entire life. A rival tribe attacked their camp. They captured Temujin. They put a heavy wooden frame around his neck. They made him a slave. He walked from camp to camp, humiliated and chained. For months, Temujin wore that collar. For months, he was nobody. But his mind never stopped working. He watched. He waited. He planned. One night, he escaped. He ran through the darkness. He hid in a river for hours, only his nose above the water. When he finally emerged, a man from another tribe found him. That man looked at this dirty, escaped slave, and he made a choice. He hid Temujin in a cart full of wool. He protected him. He helped him go free. Temujin never forgot that kindness either. Loyalty, he understood, was the most valuable thing in the world. Thus, when Temujin was around 16 years old, he went back. He went back for Bort. The girl his father had promised him. He found her. He married her. And for a moment life seemed possible. But the steppe had other plans. A tribe called the Merkits attacked their camp in the night. They kidnapped Bort. They took her away into the darkness. Temujin had no army, no power. But he had something else. He had a childhood friend named Jamuka, and he had a powerful ally, a man named Togrul. Together, they rode after the Merkits. They attacked with speed and fury. They rescued Bort. But the experience changed Temujin. He realized something important. On the steppe, alliances were everything. Alone, you were nothing. Together, you could defeat anyone. So Temujin began to build. He started reaching out to other tribes. He offered them something no one had offered before. He offered them loyalty. In the old tribal system, when you defeated an enemy, you killed the men and took the women and children as slaves. Temujin did something different. He invited the defeated warriors to join him. He gave them food. He gave them horses. He gave them respect. He judged men not by their family name, but by their ability. A common soldier could rise to become a general. A former enemy could become a trusted ally. This was revolutionary. This had never been done before, and warriors came to him. First, then hundreds, then thousands. One by one, the tribes of the steppe united under one man, under Temujin. Part OUR. Giakaf in the year 2000, something historic happened. All the Mongol tribes gathered in one place. They sat together on the great steppe, and they declared Temujin their supreme ruler. They gave him a new name. It meant universal ruler, or some say oceanic ruler, a ruler as vast and powerful as the ocean itself. Temujin, the abandoned boy, was now the leader of an entire people. But he did not stop there. He could not stop. The steppe was in his blood. Movement was in his blood. So he looked outward, and he began to conquer. His army was unlike anything the world had ever seen. They did not march slowly like European knights. They moved like water. They could ride for days without stopping. Every soldier had multiple horses. When one horse was tired, they switched. They could travel 100 kilometers in a single day. Their communication system was extraordinary. Messengers rode day and night across a network of stations. A message could travel 300 kilometers in 24 hours. They used psychological warfare before every battle. They would send messengers to a city first. The message was simple. Surrender, and we will spare you. Fight, and we will destroy everything. Many cities surrendered immediately. Those that did not were destroyed completely. Genghis Khan had no mercy for those who chose resistance. But he had deep respect for those who showed courage and loyalty. Khan USS, the Mongol army swept across Central Asia like fire across dry grass. They defeated the Jin dynasty of northern China. They crushed the Khwarezmian Empire, one of the most powerful Islamic empires of the time. Cities that had stood for 1,000 years fell in days. Samar, Bukhara, Merv. Great centers of learning and trade burned to the ground. The destruction was almost impossible to believe. Some historians say that in certain regions, it took 200 years for the population to recover. Entire rivers were diverted. Irrigation systems were destroyed. Civilizations that had taken centuries to build vanished in months. But here is what history books often miss. Genghis Khan was not simply a destroyer. He was also, in many ways, a builder. He created the Yem system, a postal relay network that stretched across Asia. Merchants could travel from China to Persia safely under Mongol protection. This was called the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace. For nearly 100 years, the Silk Road was open. Ideas, goods, and knowledge flowed between East and West. Chinese paper making reached Europe. Islamic mathematics reached China. The Black Plague also traveled this road, but that is another story. Genghis Khan also had a remarkable quality, unusual for a conqueror. He was religiously tolerant. He himself followed the traditional Mongol belief in the sky god Tengri. But he allowed Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and Taoists to practice freely in his empire. He actually exempted religious leaders from taxation. He believed that all religions pointed toward the same sky. This was a remarkably modern idea from a man who lived 800 years ago. Parkaundi Fei Ligasiwe Genghis Khan died in 1227. The exact cause is still debated by historians. Some say he fell from his horse. Some say he was wounded in battle. Some say he was killed by a captured princess. Nobody knows for certain. He was buried somewhere in Mongolia, in a secret location. His soldiers killed anyone who saw the funeral procession. Then they rode horses over his grave, thousands of times, until no mark remained. To this day, no one has found his tomb. After his death, his empire continued to grow. His sons and grandsons pushed further west. They reached Poland. They reached Hungary. They were stopped only by the death of a Khan, forcing the army to return home for a new election. Europe was saved, not by its own strength, but by Mongol politics. At its peak, the Mongol Empire covered 24 million square kilometers. That is the largest contiguous empire in human history. Larger than the British Empire. Larger than the Roman Empire. Larger than Alexander's empire. One man, from nothing, built all of this. And then there is the genetic legacy. Scientists conducted a remarkable study in 2003. They found that approximately 0.5% of the world's male population, around 16 million men at the time, carried a very specific Y chromosome marker. This marker originated in Mongolia, approximately 1,000 years ago. The most likely carrier of the original marker, Genghis Khan himself. Today, that number is estimated at 40 million men. Spread across Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. He died 800 years ago. But his blood runs in one of every 12 men alive today. No other individual human being in history has left such a biological mark on the world. Tichi Mairar Indiji, my friend, think about what Temujin faced. He was abandoned at 9 years old. He was enslaved. He was humiliated. He lost everything, more than once. But he never stopped. He never accepted the identity that the world tried to give him, the identity of nobody. He decided, quietly, stubbornly, alone on the cold steppe, that he was somebody. And he was right. Today, when you sit down to learn English, you are doing something Temujin understood deeply. You are refusing to accept limits. He looked at the walls around him, and he found a way through. Every word you learn in English is another horse in your stable. Every lesson is another kilometer across the steppe. You are building something. Maybe the world cannot see it yet. Maybe the people around you do not understand it yet. But you know. Just like that 9-year-old boy knew, sitting alone in the cold wind, that this was not the end. This was only the beginning. Keep going. Keep learning. The steppe is wide, and you have far to ride. Thank you so much for watching Timeless English today. If this story moved you, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because our next story is already waiting for you. I will see you very soon.